Hello friends, welcome back. In the last video we put this fair lead on, and we have that slotted so that the winch line can go clear through it like that. So I just did that to show you that it will clear it. But in today's video we're going to add something else to it. A few moments ago the mailman just brought me a package from Hurricane, Utah. And this is what I've been waiting for. Well, one of the things I've been waiting for all week. I was hoping it would come in time to put it together for the Christmas crawl, and it did. However, the Christmas crawl's tomorrow, and I don't have the motor that I'm going to be putting inside this. So all I'm going to do tonight is install the winch, but not necessarily, well, I'm not going to put in the radio yet, because of the receiver, because I only want to tear this thing apart one time. And in the meantime, I will be able to set it up though. I'll just put it on channel 5, and I'm going to make it so that my FlySky GT7P radio will be able to control the winch. And this is what comes in it. I've got this here is a piece that draws down. You hook that onto your servo mount. And then if you want to, you can actually take the winch, and I'll show you this here. I'll be able to take the winch line from here through the X and then straight down. So if I'm climbing steeply, if I hit the winch down, it'll drop the nose. And that's a typical thing for full-size crawlers, where they actually winch down their own nose for the steeper climbs. So I'll have that option. I'm hoping that the hook on the end of my winch line can pass through the fair lead. Alright, looking at the pieces, this is the spool, and it's got a hole drilled through it, Reese 99 servo. This is the actual winch line, and I can tell you right now, this hook is not going to fit through the fair lead ever, so I have to decide whether I want it straight to the servo and just have it be a pull down, which I don't, or if I want to use it as an actual winch. I just measured the winch line, and it's about 95 centimeters or 3 feet long, and some of that length will disappear because you have to tie a knot in either end just to make this thing fit onto the servo. I'm sorry, not the servo, but the reel, and also here at the end. One thing I'm not seeing in this kit are screws that I need in order to tie these down. So I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. I'm sure I have screws laying around places, but I'm kind of surprised that the kit did not include screws for the actual servo mount. It does have a notch there on the side for the cord to come out, which is cool. And it only takes 2, so I'm guessing it's going to come right up to the center there. For reference, I like to always give you guys something to compare it to. That winch spool is roughly the size of a US penny. So I started digging around in my drawer full of screws and did find 2 here that will work for it. I think they're M3 screws, but I don't know that for a fact. But I can now go ahead and bolt this servo on. One note is, on this servo, this has to pass through the middle, that slot, rather than through the holes, because I think that's where it mounts the best. So knowing that, I believe the screw is actually wider than that gap, so it's going to take a little bit of kind of hogging that hole out to make it happen. I just put the screw in with some blue Loctite, and it drew this down quite a bit. There's just a tiny bit of gap in there between the reel and the servo, so that's pretty good fit. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. You're using all but 1/2 millimeter of the splined area of the output shaft of this Reese 99 servo. And supposedly this thing can just lift a stock Capra straight up in the air. I don't think I'm going to try that because I've got a little extra weight from the brass ringed bead locks they have. So nowhere really when you're crawling will you have to lift the entire weight of the vehicle. It's usually quite a bit less. So I'm not going to try to do that. I know it has a lot of power. Another thing I've done to my Capra that you may or may not want to do, I'll show this to you. On this particular axle, I've added a zip tie that's gone through this first ring right here, and I'll see if I can zoom in tighter for you. And what this zip tie is for is to be unnoticeable when you're driving it. It's out of the way. But if I needed to be able to suck the front end down, I could put the winch through there, and that way I can have the suck down from the winch, as well as a functional winch that I could use for recoveries or to help myself over an obstacle. But that is my workaround, because I don't want this thing to be the only thing that the winch is used for. When you're doing a competition, you're going to want to have this be a functional piece, not just for bringing the nose down, but for getting yourself over things. And this loop here on the front axle is how I did that. Also, it's worth noting, before you tie the other end of your winch line through this reel, pass it through the fairlead, because if you don't, you'll have to untie it, because there's no way else to pull this through. It won't pull through, and you'll be pulling this thing back out and doing something else. So save yourself the trouble, pass it through the fairlead first. I just tied a knot that I regret. I passed it clear through after putting this on the servo, and now I've got a knot inside the reel. Well, I don't want that, so I'm going to change this up, and I'm going to pull this off, undo the knot, and then show you how I'm going to fix it. All right, you can see what I'm doing here. I've ran the winch line through the side, out the top. I didn't go clear through. There are holes to go clear through so that you can tie it. But what I've done is I've taken it out the top, put it through this nut right here, and I'm going to tie this nut off so that when the winch line pulls back through, it'll stop, and I'll have a completely clean winch reel. I won't have a knot inside of the reel. I just think that'll wrap much better. It'll wrap tighter, and it won't slip as easy. That's how I have it. Now when this pulls tight, it cannot pull through. So I may have to just clip off the edge of the very end of this rope, just to keep that center bolt from lifting during a slackline condition. I put a piece of tape over the whole thing and then just cut off what I didn't need, and that'll keep that bolt sitting flush. It won't rub on the underside of the hood that way. Now I have this coming straight out, and what that should do is provide it a super clean wrap. So when this is wrapping up, it's going to not have a bulge that it has to wrap itself over. That would be not ideal. Actually, it's a couple of the wraps. I'm going to have 2 or 3 wraps at full extension, and that way it's hanging on it. It's self-tensioning around the center of the spool rather than relying on the nut itself. I don't want it to release by accident, so that's why I've done that. According to the video I saw from West Desert Wheeler, you have to remove the cross member that's right here, kind of at the top of the servo behind the shock here. You get in there with no problem. And the top portion of this bolts into the farthest back shock mount. And I'm going to use the same screws that I just pulled out of the cross member to put back in. I'll need to get 2 more, but these here, I've already taken the other one out. It's going to go right back in the bottom and down here, and it will replace a piece that is already inside. I don't know if you can look in there very easily, but that piece down here with the holes in it needs to be removed, because the bottom of the winch mount will take its place. So I have to figure out how to get that out. I'm probably gonna have to take the cage apart a little bit. So I'll let you know how it goes. I was able to remove that chassis piece, the cross member, and what I did was I just, inside of here are some screws, one there and one over on the other side. I just unloosened those, reached in, and spread the chassis apart. So worked pretty good. I'll probably end up just doing something to route my wires now. I'll probably just duct tape it. I don't know. I've got Gorilla Tape. It'll work fine. So I just need to figure out a way to do that. The reel on this is offset so that you can have the wrap coming from the center side. You don't necessarily want to pull it from the far edge. Maybe you do. I don't know. If you're going to hook it to this side here, maybe you want it coming out of the left side of the fairlead. I don't know. I'll mess with it a little bit, just figure out what works best. But I'm going to go ahead and install this piece. I'll have to get a couple of more screws for the top two mounts. They go through the rear shock mount hole, and that's where that bolts in. When you install this, just go ahead and pull the hood off. It gets in the way and it's just easier. Here are a couple of install notes. When you are putting this on, don't run it underneath the stuff here. No matter what you do, it's going to rub on something. It's either going to rub on this, or it's going to rub on this, or you can just cut that X out. I don't know why that would matter, but I don't think it's going to be a problem either way. You might want that X right here just to keep that, giving it a more of a straight line into the reel. Also, what I've done is I have put two wraps on the reel. I don't know if you can see that. It's wrapped around twice. So what I'm going to do is get my red magic marker. I've done this on all of my other builds, and I like doing this. But what I'll do is I'll put a red strip right here on the rope itself, and then I'll put 2 or 3 black lines ahead of it, just to kind of let me know when I'm reaching that 2 wrap point. So I'll show you what I mean. Give me 1 second to just do it. Alright, I've got my winch line completely extended, and what I did was, where I don't want it to come out anymore, I put a red mark there with 3 lines ahead of it that are black marker, and that'll be really easy to see on a trail. And then every quarter of the rope that you go out, there's another. So this is 1/4 out, halfway out, 3/4 out, all the way out, and then you got the red stopping point. So that still allows for the 2 wraps on the reel. That's how I like to do it, and I don't have winches coming tied that way. So also, builder's note when you're doing this, the wire comes out of the back side, and that's very important because you can see the mount here has these tapered edges here. One is here, one is there. Those have to go forward, otherwise this thing does not fit inside of the engine bay. Also, it's going to make it very difficult to put a full-size battery, like a 4200 or something, in there with that, but the small battery should fit just fine. I'm going to see how that goes. I don't know if I like that or not. I guess if I wanted to do a winch, I'm committed to small batteries. All that's left to do with this, oh yeah, I did not bother to put in the top 2 screws, and the reason I didn't do that is because it takes up a hole right here where the top shock mounts, and it's unnecessary because it's screwed in the bottom, and all the pull force is going to pull this forward where it's not going to move anyway. So I don't think that it really needs the top screws, and if you put them in, the screw head would just interfere with the ability of the shock to fully seat against the chassis, because it would then seat against the screw head. So I didn't think it was that necessary. You know, one thing I probably should have done before installing this was test the servo. I didn't do that, but it's probably fine. I'm going to hook that up to channel 5 here, and then set a button on my FlySky GT7P to extend and release this, or extend and retract the rope. So I'm going to program that real quick, and this will be done until I get the new motor. Once I get the new motor, all the wiring will be complete. It's going to have, like I said, this receiver instead of the one that's currently in it. So it is still ready to run as it is, but it has a stock motor which is jumpy and I don't like it. So I'm going to put in a really nice smooth Hobbywing Pro 2300. So this thing will be first class when it's done, and I don't know, it's not going to be one of these fancy, you know, Dragon chassis or G-Speed, but I think it'll be able to pull its own. It'll do all right. I'm going to give up a little bit of ground clearance on it going over ridges, but I think this is going to do a nice job. Where I might not have the ground clearance, I'm going to have a winch to just pull myself over. It only cost a point, so I'm okay with that. Right now I have the receiver mounted outside of the vehicle because I haven't taken out the ready to run stuff. I'm just hooking stuff up and making sure everything works. I know I set up my dig servo after the last video. I don't have the endpoint set, but I'll do that once I take the truck apart. But I now have the winch servo hooked up to trim 1 right here, and if it's a rocker switch. If I push the back half, it retracts it. If I push the front half, it extends it. This is my winch control channel, and I've gone ahead and set the step to 25 because if you don't set it to something high like that, it just takes too many button pushes. So at 25 it comes out pretty good. It's a decent pace on one click. It's slow, but it's manageable. So you can handle that. And if you go to several more clicks, it goes out pretty fast. 25 works good. It gives you 3 speeds, and I think this is ready to go together once we get the motor. One note, West Desert Wheeler said that on his, the hood closes without interfering with the spool. On mine, it doesn't. The spool hits and it doesn't close, so it's not just the cord stopping it. I can feel the where it's hitting here. In fact, I might run this winch in and out a few times just to get a witness mark, and I may end up cutting a hole for that reel, and really that should look like an air cleaner from the top with the hood down. So I'll figure something out. I might heat this hood up, it's Lexan, and just bump it up to get it out of the way. But I got to figure out something because right now it's hitting the hood right here. So I guess that's the last thing I have to do. It's not so bad. Well, that's all for tonight. It's set up. It's just waiting for a motor, and I'll clean up all the wiring, get the rear steer axle installed, and this thing will be ready. Very excited about it. This is the first time I will have had a class 3 rig, and it's just kind of funny seeing its guts outside right now. So anyway, that's all for tonight. We'll talk to you later.